Good evening, folks. Ooh, not very good as a cook. Anyway, how are you on this Beltane, 1st of May? All sex and fertility rights, of course. That's what it's all about, really. And of course, the perverse of that will be the satanic. So it's the Satanic New Year's Day. And last night was the height of the rituals for the bad boys and girlies. So just thought I'd fill you in on that. But I thought we'd start with a bit of a good evening, Paul. Start with a bit of an insight into what today is really all about, or originally. Joining the Dutch UK, greetings, Chris R. Yeah, boy, nice. Slipknot, hello there, how you doing? I hope you didn't miss my chops yammering last week. It's quite pleasant, actually, to have a Sunday evening where I didn't have to do anything. But never mind, the game must go on. So I thought we'd have a little look at the esoteric meaning of the maypole. And this is from the Shaman of Avalon. I can't say her name. It's Annie de la Voûte or something like that. I don't think I've said it right, which I do apologise. It says the maypole is often called a fertility symbol, and that's why it is popular custom to dance around it at Beltane, which of course is the festival most associated with sex and fertility. But we may not know what the maypole's dance with the red and white ribbons actually symbolises. It is a depiction in dance about how the alchemical marriage takes place in the body. The intertwining ribbons of the maypoles represent the intertwining serpentine energies that course up the central pillar during shamanic sex practices, as I describe in my book, The Sacred Sex Rites of Ishtar. There are two of these energetic serpents known in the Indian culture as Ida and Pingala. One is gold and the other is black. They both have their nest just below the root chakra and are excited into rising by the nectars that are released through the whole body during true magic lovemaking. So that's not up the bottom. The love creates a special music frequency, and so this is also the metaphor being enacted by the flute playing Indian snake charmer. Yeah, see? Everything has a meaning, doesn't it? You know, you might just look at these guys that charm snakes and think, well, no, it's symbolic. After awaking, the black and gold serpents then travel up the central pillar, which of course is your spine, which is in the spine, and crisscross over several times at key major chakras until they reach the chalice-shaped cup of the hypothalamus. And that's another name. Yeah, another name for the chalice, of course, is the Grail. Then the two serpents' heads hang over the edge of the Grail as they excrete their red and white drops of heavenly dew, which fall onto the pineal gland and in the base of the Grail of the hypothalamus. This sparks the pineal gland, a third eye, into life, and thus the person receives the Holy Grail. he becomes enlightened to his true nature and the nature of reality. Shamanic sex rites confer such wisdom that is used to be the pharaohs. That it used to be that the pharaohs and kings would lie with Herodul or a sacred prostitute on the night of their coronations. She would in fact have been a shaman whose energies were aligned with the spirits of the land, and thus she was able to initiate the country's leader into the wisdom he would need to rule his domain. That's why they always say that behind every great man, there's always a female. There's much more about sacred shamanic sex in my book, Sacred Rites, Sex Rites of Ishtar, including a how-to bit at the end with the step-by-step instructions for how we can practice it ourselves today. So that's the Shaman of Avalon's take on Beltane. So thank you for that. Now then. So I thought we'd have a look at some exceptionally interesting data that I picked up off a guy that I communicated with in about 2018. And then he disappeared. He's nowhere to be seen anywhere. But the guy, when I sort of met him or made contact with him, he was in a serious battle. And you get an insight into the kind of enemies he had when we go through some of this work or this data that I picked up off this guy many moons ago. So, without further ado, let's have a look, hello Jace, at the first bit of info, which is Vesper Coast Mafia. So I think what we're going to be looking at here, if we approach this by looking at these are the families that are making up the Committee 300. So of course, what we're seeing here, there is something above. There are probably families in here that are also in the above. But as the old saying goes, if you can see it, it's not the top. So we work on that premise and consider that these are some of the families making up the Community of 300 and their escapades. So the Vesper Coast Mafia. The House of Adragna is a high-level Sicilian criminal nobility that is still active today, with Baron Francesco Adragna as the current head. They are top owners of the Los Angeles crime family. They are a mix from Norman and Arab immigrants, and their name derives from the Drengot family, who were mercenaries that settled in southern Italy. The Adragna family currently owns Tenute Adragna Company, involved in wine and olive oil production. Their coat of arms includes a fortress, guard dogs, and a guard, suggesting they are the defense force for the human trafficking Sicilian mafia. They also manage the Ndrangheta clans in Calabria that operate as a defense for the higher level Sicilian mafia. They were involved in the Knights of Malta and were closely related to the House of Pepoli. Benedetto Adragna was an Italian senator more recently. Their connection with the Los Angeles crime family ties in with the Dragna family. Jack Dragna was a top boss in the Los Angeles mafia. The Dragna family dominated the Los Angeles mafia faction with members Jack Dragna, Tom Dragna, and Louis Tom Dragna. Bugsy Siegel worked with Jack Dragna extorting Hollywood and paid dues back to Dragna for operating in his territory. La Cosa Nostra is covertly overseeing Hollywood and are involved in extortion, threats, and murders to maintain their control. So that's an insight into what these celebrities are actually up against. And this is, you don't say no when you're operating when you're being told to do what to do by this bunch. Today, the Gambino crime family and their associates are managing the Los Angeles crime family, with John Gambino as the head until his recent death in 2017. The Adragna princely family are working with the Gaetani princely family of Rome, which is the primary owner of the Gambino crime family. So Gaetani is the family that actually is behind the Gambino crime family. Both of these families have some ownership over the Ndrangheta mafia clans, with Dragon connected with Dragon and Geta connected with Gaeta. My apologies if I'm not saying these right. Prince Francesco Adragna claims exposing criminals enables criminals and gives criminals the right to be criminals. He thinks exposing criminals helps criminals, and this is why their family motto is "Do not keep silent." Rino Fiscella is of Sicilian nobility, or Fiscella rather, and is a Roman Catholic Archbishop today who manages the southern part of the Diocese of Rome. He is a mediator between Sicily and Rome and manages the Vatican's intelligence network in southern Italy. The Lanza family are a Bavarian Sicilian nobility, and they still hold many titles throughout Sicily today. Today, Prince Pietro Lanza di Scaglia is the head of the Sicilian Lanza family, along with Prince Giuseppe Lanza di Scaglia. Just as the Sicilian Adragna family run their mafia in California, the Sicilian Lanza family also runs the mafia there too. The noble Lanza family set up their criminal operation in San Francisco with mafia bosses Francesco Lanza and his son James Lanza. The Sicilian mafia involved in human trafficking, and the Lanza crime family have a human trafficking network with the Tijuana cartel. The Hollywood movies that glorify gangsters as if they have some moral code is propaganda. The Lanza princely families are working with the Massimo princely family, and they merged a branch with the Lancelotti family of Rome. The Massimo family appear in whatever I've studied in the years as an extremely powerful family. The Lanza crime family were involved with the Sandy Hook government, says PSYOP here, in Connecticut. Sandy Hook was a CIA FBI mafia operation, and he says it was a fake mass shooting. Now, of course, that's got Alex Jones in a lot of trouble for saying such, but of course, I'm not saying it, I'm merely repeating what this guy I communicated with some years ago said. He said Ryan Lanza moved to New Jersey, where the Italian mafia have major influences. Jeff Lanza is a retired FBI agent from Connecticut, and this suggests the Lanza family have infiltrated the FBI. It was interesting who created the FBI, because again, this is another Roman family. The black nobility own and run mafias and also infiltrate governments. They use their Vatican network to recruit Roman agents. They use church leaders to oversee society as an intelligence network. Andrew Lanza is a New York senator and former member of the New York City Council. Cosa Nostra has become more quiet while using other criminal organizations as their proxies, which take orders from them and pay them dues. I believe that a majority of the street gangs inside the United States pay dues back to the Italian mafia, which are the eldership of organized crime. The Italian mafia work with the Armenian mafia, which operate in Hollywood. They work with the Triads and Yakuza, which have deep influences at the ports and are involved with human trafficking of Asians into the United States on the West Coast. APL Limited is a large Singapore-based shipping and container company which runs ports in Los Angeles, Auckland, Seattle, Dutch Harbor, and Dutch Harbor. Yakuza and Triads operate through these ports and traffic Asians into the United States, which are used for underground sex trafficking rings. Unity Resource Group is an international private military and consultant firm with 2 offices in Asia, with one being in Singapore. They use mercenaries and organized crime to carry out human trafficking. So if this is the case, we can clearly see that although the global media dividing us everybody up into West and East, when you get into the thick of it, at the level of Committee 300 kind of stuff, or organized crime, all the nations are operating completely and utterly together, and in the main are taking their influence from, I mean, it says Rome, but I mean, we know that the Venetians have had power in Rome for a long time, and then inserted the Prussian or Napoleonic military forces back into the Vatican in 1815 with this new version of the Jesuit. Unity Resource Group is an international private military and consultant firm with 2 offices in Asia, with one being in Singapore. They use mercenaries and organized crime to carry out human trafficking. The House of Ruffo di Calabria is an ancient nobility of Calabria, Sicily, and Naples. They claim to be descendants of the Ruffia Gentile clan of ancient Rome. The head of this family today is Duke Fulco Ruffo of Calabria. So these guys are not Jewish, as it were, or Judeans, the house of Judah, because they class themselves as Gentile. And the 8th Duke of Guardia Lombardy with Prince Augusto Rufio di Calabria as another high-level member. Many of the top mafia clans in southern Italy came from the Lombardy region, which gave the name to Guardia Lombardia in Campania. So, and Lombardy is, of course, the Venetians. This is the Florentine Empire that were, so to say, collapsed in the 1200s. The Ruffo di Calabria family guard the Lombardy mafia clans in Sicily. The Ruffo family are part owners of the Colacurcio crime family of Seattle, Washington. Curcio is a town in Lombardy, and the Colacurcio crime family have ancestry from there. The Ruffo di Calabria family have married with the Sforza family and ruled southern Italy as governors for the imperial families. So they've ruled southern Italy as governors for the imperial families. Now, Sforza, this is an Holy See family, very powerful, and their logo is interesting. It's got, I think, a snake eating a child, if I remember rightly. So this bunch will run southern Italy for the Sforza family, and they're classed as an imperial family. The House of Sforza ruled in Lombardy and are also owners of the Seattle crime family. The Ruffo di Calabria family. So you can see the Holy See, in essence, was taken over by the Venetians and has controlled everything that we class as Rome. Yeah, it's interesting stuff, isn't it? When you start to look at it instead of just the way it's given in the sort of the David Icke ordained arena, when you start getting into the real guts of it, the story is a bit different. It's just a little bit different. Let's have a look. The Ruffo family are part owners of the Colacurcio crime family of Seattle, Washington. Curcio is a town in Lombardy, and the Colacurcio crime family have ancestry from there. The Ruffo di Calabria family have married with with the Sforza family and ruled as governors of the imperial families. So Sforza ruled Lombardy and are also owners of the Seattle crime family. The Ruffo di Calabria family were involved with the Sicilian Vespers. Now this gets interesting, and the reason why I've chosen to present this info. So it says the Ruffo di Calabria family were involved with Sicilian Vespers and Vesper Wars. Vesper is the Roman deity of evening, the west, and sunset. This is why the Sicilian nobility are owners of the West Coast mafia factions. The term Lucifer was a Latin creation used as an epithet for Vesper. Yeah? So it's a Latin creation, Lucifer, but really it's depicting Vesper. Okay, and that's the Roman deity of the evening, west, and sunset. Which, of course, we've got to remember these deities have two sides to them. So they're not in and of themselves evil, but if you're calling on the negative side of it, then that's what you're going to be pulling through, and that would be then the Lucifer as we understand it. The Vespers were also the name of Sicilians that fought against the French and were named after the Roman Catholic Vesper prayers during the evening when the sun sets in the west. The Colacurcio family are involved in running strip clubs and were known for Strippergate, which was an investigation into the Seattle crime family and their connection with strip clubs, prostitute rings, and working with corrupt politicians like Albert Rossellini. The FBI never went after Rossellini. However, their documents revealed information that the former governor of Washington, Albert Rossellini, was friends with the mafia boss Frank Colacurcio Sr. and was receiving campaign contributions from those seeking business licenses. That is a form of racketeering. Bill Gates, who is worth about 88 billion, and Jeff Bezos, who is worth about 100 billion, both have residences in Seattle, and they run Microsoft and Amazon. Recently, both Amazon and Microsoft employees were caught through their work emails involved in sex trafficking in the Seattle region. What Bezos and Gates do is their massive wealth to use their massive wealth to pay off corrupt police, businessmen, and politicians, which then enable human trafficking and sex trafficking networks. Bill Gates criminally finances corruption in the California area, and Jeff Bezos finances corruption in the Washington and Oregon regions. So this is 2018, remember. Frank Colacursio Jr. is the head of the Seattle crime family and oversees the human trafficking and sex slavery on the West Coast. And somebody's, so, yeah, no, that's it. So I thought that was interesting in the sense we got the idea, the Lucifer defining Vesper, basically, but also just gives you a little bit of insight into who have the claws into all these systems that everybody automatically just says is Jews. Now, we do have to remember that fronts for fronts, Russian dolls everywhere. And as we've said, if you can see it's a front. It's fronting something else. So it's not often you get them kind of names when you're looking into that kind of subject matter. So it's well worth keeping in mind. And apparently, according to this guy, these families were the real power behind Hollywood. So that's the first one. What are you guys saying? Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Disciples on the side. Good afternoon. Blessings with John. Good afternoon. Oh, are you in the US? Jeff Boy, message retracted. Are you being naughty, Jeff? South of the all roads lead to Rome. Yes, they certainly seem to do. Northern element. Oh, one gone. Thanks, Ray. Disciples of the Messiah intentions. All these atoms. The surname of the most powerful family on the planet is, well, I did a report on site, Aldo Brandini. And I came across that when I sort of investigated the marriage of one of the Aldo Brandinis. One of the Rothschilds to Olympia of Aldo Brandini. And I have to say, good grief. So in tune with this Lucifer, this is Vesper. And then Aldo Brandini being one of the main Holy See families. The more I looked into it, the more the symbolism, everything about it just oozed Aldo Brandini that were way above the Rothschilds in this pecking order. So, like Sforza we've mentioned in here, Aldo Brandini, these are families that are of the Holy See. Quite a few of them claim ancestry from the original Iranians, can't remember the bloody name of them. You know what I mean? The original Iranians who, by all points, weren't actually dark-skinned. I can't remember the name. It's just not coming. I think you know what I'm saying. Good evening, Kerry. Orsini is another one. Although the idea that the Orsini are the chief or the Grey Pope, I have looked into that in the past, and it really does seem to be just the musings of one particular guy. His name I forget. And in all honesty, it does seem to be a bit of a complete invention, which of course then would be a diversion. But you've got to keep an open mind in this because none of us actually have a clue, really. Which you can only pick it up as we find it. Yeah, Elder Breen, yeah, Pope Clemens, yeah. So all these families, the Battles, the Medicis, they have had popes. The Fourniers, they've all had them. So Fourniers comes into some of these as well. Now then, let's have a little look at this cult of Kabbalah. You're all aware of it. If you weren't, then Madonna were one of the first to put it in the public with the wearing of the red bracelet, the little red bracelet thing. So let's have a look at just how this thing works and what it's really serving. The Kabbalah cult of Leon. He says the Perleone family of Rome are an ancient self-identified Jewish bloodline that worked as financiers for the Vatican and later converted to Catholicism. They are the top architects and managers of Kabbalah and Chabad. So that's Chabad Lubavitch. Now, I'm sure if you've been paying attention, you've noted that I present this group often because these are the guys that are pushing this Noahide system via all our world leaders. So if you ever see presidents or whomever with a group of rabbis around him while he's signing, that is Chabad Lubavitch. So what's being said here, that is something else behind that. So Chabad Lubavitch are a front, as powerful as they are in relation to they getting what they need done, they're only a front for something else. So I'm going to, and this is saying a family called the Perleone family, who are Jewish. Dr. Luca Perleone is a sex psychologist from Rome. Kabbalah is used for mind control and satanic ritual abuse, which usually involves sex. Built in, it's very apt. I believe Kabbalah has influence from Arabic mysticism, and Chabad is influenced from Chaldean witchcraft. Now, I will go with this. Who are behind all this? Well, you've got to get into Chaldea, your remnants of Sumer as they come through, and possibly creating the pharaonic dynasties in Egypt, all coming from Sumer, the Anuna, or as you know, the Anunnaki. And as the elite insider said, the Anunnaki are not around anymore. No, the family lines that are claiming or ancestry to that, or so Chabad is influenced from Chaldean witchcraft. That makes absolute sense, because of course you're also looking at this sabotage Zevet, the inverse, doing sin to bring in their Messiah. Jesuit control in the background, but there's what we'll get through here is that the Prussian Jesuits, as they've been since 1815, after they've been kicked out of the Vatican in the 1700s and then reinstalled, they're a different kettle of fish, the Prussian. And that, they were big chunks and went to Corsica. Well, Napoleon's Corsican, how he became the leader of the French is beyond me. But this is the way it works. He was a Carolingian, or Josephine was a Carolingian. I know that. I'm quite sure he was as well. But I know Josephine was a Carolingian. And of course, it's looking like the Jesuits themselves, after this, after they were merged into this Prussian or Napoleonic Teutonic Knight power grid or military order, have been operating for the Prussians. The Kabbalah tree is a diagram for hacking into a person's body and mind. Some Hebrew-speaking Babylonians, like the Perleone family, started calling themselves Jews after they hijacked the Hebrew culture and scriptures during the times of ancient Babylon. Well, the Judeans were captive in Babylon, and then it was dished out from Babylon to those captives, and then they created the Second Temple under the watch of King Cyrus. Yeah, it was then annihilated by a Scythian queen. This is why they hate the white race. So they started calling themselves Jews after they hijacked the Hebrew culture and scriptures during the times of ancient Babylon. The Perleone family produced one antipope known as Antipope Anacletus II, or Pietro Perleone. Baruch Perleone was a Vatican financier and later converted to Roman Catholicism. Barack Obama is covertly handled by this family, and he's trained in Kabbalah. Early on, the Vatican is also a member of the Order of the Jesters, or the Jokers. So this is your Batman symbolism. Johnny Depp is also a member. So you got to look at this court case that's going on that everybody's focused to, because I actually had a little look at it this week, a couple of these videos that are popping up. Well, that's fine, but while you're watching that, you're not watching Epstein, are you? That's just disappeared into the background. Nobody has a single clue what's going on. Probably because there's nothing going on, because it's all fake. But you're all focused to Johnny Depp. Well, if it's to be understood from information available, Johnny Depp is no less a player than anybody else, and the fact that he's involved in this furore now suggests it was set up for this exact thing. Barack Obama is covertly handled by this family, and he's training Kabbalah. Early on in Vatican's policies, Early on, the Vatican's policies were opposed to Christian usury, and this enabled these Babylonians, who claimed to be Jews, to dominate over banking in some regions. The motive behind this is evident, since these Jewish bankers all worked for Christian kings and were known as court Jews or court factors, employed through the royal courtrooms. And of course, they were Venetians. The Perleone family ruled as the Dukes of Fondi. Fondi means funds. Now, I've discussed Fondi, I've talked or mentioned the term Fondi before. But basically, these ancient Roman families, or old money, the way they've kept their power is because they've amalgamated the power bases together and called them the Fondi, and they vote how to move that power. This is how they've managed to keep the power and expand it over these centuries, which I'm not so sure we're looking back to 2,000 years. I think history is a lot nearer than is given. The Roman Curia is the papal court, and the Perleone family financially worked for the Pope of Rome and eventually were granted the status of nobility. By Christian princes using Jewish bankers to handle the finances created a layer of protection for them. At the same time, Christian kings authorized and used Jewish bankers. They also persecuted real Jews. Grand Duke Cosimo III de' Medici was known for persecuting Jews and also bankrupted his own state bank after receiving large gold deposits. Several books on the Medici family have linked them to witchcraft, Kabbalah, and Hermeticism during their reign, but of course it's the negative use of. Court Jews are proxies for Christian monarchs, and this has continued on to this day, which creates anti-Jewish movements like the Nazis. These fake Jews with Babylonian ancestry working with royal families cause anti-Jewish movements, which then causes the real Jews to get persecuted, while these Babylonian Kabbalists are protected by their employers in the royal and noble families. Well, that makes absolute sense to me, without a doubt. I mean, so many of the Sephardic were murdered in the Second World War. But of course, most of the camps were there to feed the influx to Israel. The Kabbalah Society was founded in London by Zev ben Halevi, and he went to St. Martin's School of Art, which was founded by the Church of England. Now, St. Martin's, there's also St. Martin's in the Fields Church in the inner city of London, and this is the naval church, and of course, Martin is Mars, so we're dealing with Mars here, we're dealing with war, okay? So the Kabbalah Society was founded in London by Zev ben Halevi, and he went to St. Martin's School of Art, which was founded by the Church of England. The Halevi family were a Babylonian clan related to the Levites, which settled in Lyon. Now, when you get into the captivity, it's with 60,000, I think, we took. No, I can't remember, I'm guessing. I think there were only a certain amount went back to Israel, let's put it that way. And once they built the temple, it was the Levites of Babylon that came in and set up the actual priesthood and ran it, which settled in Lyon, Spain, and Eastern Europe. So the Levites settled in Lyon, Spain, and Eastern Europe around the 8th century. Samuel Ha-Levi was the treasurer for Peter the Cruel, king of Castile and Leon, and Samuel was also from the Abulafia family, which have Arabic origins. Meir ben Todros Ha-Levi Abulfaya and Abraham Abulafia were Spanish Kabbalists in the 13th century. I believe the Perleone family are partially related to the Ha-Levi Abulafia clans of Leon, Spain, and later married in with the remnant of the Anisi Gentile clan in Italy. Leone comes from Leon, Spain. Moses de Leon was a 13th century Kabbalist that developed many of his teachings. King Philippe VI of Spain is the king of Leon today and also holds the title of King of Jerusalem. So the title King of Jerusalem, then it was seen, was passed on from one Carlos to his son. That's interesting. Herzai Ha-Levi is the Directorate of Military Intelligence in Israel. The Russian word for lion is lev, and the German word for lion is law. I believe the word lie comes from this clan. Kabbalists, like most occultists, are highly skilled liars. The Kabbalah Center incorporates the Lion of Leon into its logo of honor of Moses de Leon. Meir ben Todros Hal-Levi, Abu Lafia, Yehuda al-Levi, Aaron Hal-Levi, and Zechariah Hal-Levi were also Spanish members of this clan from the 10th and 11th centuries and involved with the Talmud. So when I've said many times that everything changed in Rome during the time of the Crusades, because rather than it being an outpouring of Europe into the Middle East, it was mainly to get our lot there so they could bring this stuff back. Yeah, does that make sense? Same with a lot of the Indian elites. They're also spreading back over after the colonial days. It's gone the other way. Where are we? There is a Kabbalah Center in Los Angeles, New York, and also Boca Raton, which has a large Italian mafia operation located there. Many members of Hollywood are involved with Kabbalah, including Madonna, Demi Moore, Lucy Liu, Ashton Kutcher, Roseanne Barr, Britney Spears, Gwyneth Paltrow, Anthony Kiedis, Ariana Grande, Rihanna, Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, and others. Ashton Kutcher taught Natalie Portman Kabbalah, and she taught Chris Hemsworth, whose Spanish wife, Elsa Pataque, practices Armenian runic witchcraft. Rune means secret or occult. Let's just see where I'm going with that. Many members of Hollywood can be seen wearing the red string Kabbalah bracelet, which represents the red Gevura Sephiroth from Mars, warfare and wrath, and destruction. These Hollywood millionaires that love being idolized want to carry out a holocaust on the American people. Leonardo DiCaprio can be seen wearing the red string. Angelina Jolie is a high-level Kabbalistic witch. And of course, who better to send over to the fantasy in the Ukraine but an actress to pretend she's being bombed and she has to run off and blah, 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 blah. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. But when you know how it works, it's so pathetic and sad that people suck it up. It says they are sadists involved with human sacrifice and paedophilia. Kabbalah is used for mind control and chemical poisoning. They also work with the Church of Scientology, which is based on occult teachings and merging them with electronics. These Kabbalists are torturing people in society with witchcraft. Philip Berg founded the Kabbalah Center in Los Angeles, and today it's run by Karen Berg, Yehuda Berg, and Michael Berg. Marcus Weston is a high-level Kabbalist and is connected with Goldman Sachs. Count Massimo Perleone is the head of the House of Perleone, so Massimo in there as well. Today, and his family manages various secret societies involved with Kabbalah through Rome's network of power. His wife is also a high-level satanic witch. He takes his given name Massimo from the Massimo family, which he serves as their master Kabbalist. Chabad is a Hasidic Kabbalistic movement established in Lithuania in 1775 by Shneur Zalman of Leyde. Lithuania was ruled by the House of Wettin, which is a very powerful house. And during this time period, Princess Maria Cristina Sabina of Wettin married Prince Camillo Massimiliano Massimo in 1796. Shneur Zalman's sister was Judah Leo ben Bazalel, and Leo meaning lion. Chabad is a large operation in New York, or has a large operation in New York. Jared Kushner is a member of Chabad. The Perleone family claim to have ancestry from the Anisi clan of the Roman Empire. Anisi derives from the Egyptian word inst, anise or inst, and is a plant used in ancient Egypt and Babylon and was later brought into Europe. Anisatin has some chemical similarities to anise and is highly toxic. The Perleone family were the top architects of modern Kabbalah. Kabbalah and other forms of sorcery use plants and herbs for chemical warfare and manipulating the psyche. Count Massimo Perleone is a master Kabbalist and top architect of the Luciferianism, which is about evil concealing itself in a false light, which is the term used for the specific type of deceit. Count Massimo Perleone makes posts on his Twitter page about love all the time. Evil hiding behind the word love is a form of false light, or Luciferianism. False text, as I used to say, just false everything. These Kabbalistic Hollywood sadists like hiding behind activism. The term Lucifer was created by the Latins and translates a light bearer. Lucifer was specifically used as an epithet for Vesper, the evening star, and intentionally added into the Bible in exchange for morning star to create confusion. Excuse me. It was the Latins that created the word Lucifer. Sociopaths learn to imitate normal people in order to blend in. The light of Lucifer is this imitation. Sociopaths realize that love is what is most important to normal people, so they like to use the concept of love to conceal their own wickedness. Luciferians also pretend to oppose corruption as a shield. Yeah, their lack of sincerity, lack of facts, and imitation makes this obvious. The very evil Count Massimo Perleone's image on his Twitter shows him concealing one eye in the dark, and his other eye is illuminated in the light. So there you go, just a little bit of an insight about what's running this Kabbalah. Now, of course, with the Kabbalah, I have done a video where they get everybody that joins it is it's inverted. It's inverted left, right, and it's inverted top, bottom. So when you're doing ritual, you're not hitting. Hence, everybody that's been involved in it while they've been trying to do white magic, as they call it, everything that's coming of it is feeding this. So let's catch up with what you fellas are saying. Good evening, Michael. Good evening. Vespers, the evening star Venus, Sicilian Vespers, the era of the general massacre of the French in Sicily, or Easter evening, 1282, at the toll of the bell for Vespers. And you notice James Bond, weren't it, that for Vesper? Yeah, it's all there, but like I said, you're studying this kind of stuff in the paradigm that's given. You don't look at these names and get these ideas. It's all Israel, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? No, we're not saying that the government of Israel are innocent. Of course they're not. But the poor people that live there, the Jews, they're not all like we English get seen as everything that the East India Company does. And this is what makes me laugh about this, because you've got all these immigrants piling in here, hating England because of the empire. Because they're too stupid to realise what the fuck do you think's brought you in here? The fucking empire, because that's who you fucking work for. You know what I'm saying? It's so pathetic. People are so just running on their own garbage, their own hate, their own nonsense. Don't follow any doctrine, any leader that supports their own shit. And I'm not just aiming this to immigrants. This is all cultures, all religions are subject to this deception. Late to the party. Oh, that's got to be a detention. Yeah, no, I don't think anybody gets notifications, if I'm truth. Olympia Aldo Bandrini married David de Rothschild in 1974. Yeah, I have a full report on it, and it goes in depth on a lot of subject matter, and it's a lot of this kind of information. And I did that a long time ago. But yeah, Aldo Bandrini are exceptionally powerful. It's not to say that at the top, because you've got foreign A's, they're an exceptionally powerful family. Medici, I'd still edge my bets at Medici being at the top of the game, or at least the hidden side of it. Thurnham taxes, that's an interesting why the Thurnham taxes. I think we might have a look at that as well as we move with this stuff. Chaldeans, yeah. Oh, yeah. The Chaldeans, their witchcraft is just pure evil. Sabotage everything. This is where you can see it all coming from, because witchcraft in and of itself is just a craft. The fact that people call witches is a name given to them by power, because they couldn't have wise women up and about all over, so healing people, because if somebody who's not not if your religion is healing people. The religion's going to get pissed off because they're promoting the idea. The only good thing you're ever going to get out of life is if you do what we say. So they called them witches, but they were just wise women that understood nature, that understood the earth. Which, of course, if the only chapter in Genesis that's about the earth is also about the creator of it. Interesting, isn't it, then, that religion despises it, calls it paganism, calls it God knows what, you know what I'm saying? I mean, Islam understands these concepts. You look into a lot of the Islamic stuff, they're very aware of magic and witchcraft, the jinn, and that kind of stuff. Very in the know about it. I think Christians are lost because they don't understand that. Which is why the exorcists were like on their own. They were the Catholics that were understood these things and how they work and how to sort of buffer it. But there's been some interesting things happen this week. Very interesting indeed, and we might discuss them later. Yeah, in sync with that subject, actually. Bread and circus theatre for the masses. It is Medusa. Elon is a Leon. Lucifer is the false light. Well, it's deception hiding behind. It's like he's just saying there, then they're pushing love and light. Oh, love and love. Really pushing. Most of them are perverts, if they're males. You know what I'm saying? Oh, love and light, love and light. No, they're just perverted. And they're just looking to get their winkle. Yeah, it's just. But people suck it up. People suck it up and fall for it. But there you go. Now then, let's have another look here. What have we got next? So, would you like to know who runs Siemens? Let's have a look at that one. Okay. And it says the Warlocks of Ross, and that's R-O-S-S-E. The Parsons family are a high-level Anglo-Irish nobility with authority over a portion of Ireland within the county of Offaly, and they specialise in engineering, politics and law. Ireland is a Roman territory, and the top Irish clans serve the black nobility of Rome. But the black nobility of the Venetians, come on, let's get this in perspective. Okay, so they were Byzantines, so you can still class them as Rome, but it's Eastern Rome. We have to concern ourselves with Western Rome because all our titles are in it. You know what I'm saying? We have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have to understand what's happening, what's happened, and what is happening, and what they're trying to do. How they're trying to shift everything into this new Noahide system, electronic currency, etc. So, if you want to put that in financial language, they're trying to shift currency from the LIBOR to the SOFR system. Now, they tried this a few years ago and it failed miserably. They couldn't do it. I think they tried it with 20 trillion or something and it didn't work. Put it off till 2023 to try again. So since then, they've had the bug. They've expanded your use of electronic digital currencies. Readiness for 2023 when they're going to try it again. Yeah. So it's so important that we understand how just moving the currency into something traps everybody else because a person, you Sesquiv trust with the surname, with the deception creepeth and attaching itself to your Roman Christian name. It is important that we don't just shoot from the, it's Rome, it's blah, blah, blah. Freemasons are involved, Jesuits are involved, Knights of everybody's involved, but they don't necessarily know. You're not gonna get through this by just having one opposing force to everything else. It's just not going to work. It's a battle for people's minds, isn't it? It's to help people to see their own life and how it's been run through deception, that everything they all dear isn't. Because everybody can step off it in a second. Just you move yourself from expending your energy for somebody else's idea, for somebody else's will. Vedic underpins all religious beliefs. Well, yeah, the Sanskrit is, as we can say, that one of the earliest. But it's still a toss-up as to whether the rune came before the Sanskrit, or that the Sanskrit came before the rune. I mean, the rune's an important language because from that you're getting the Greek. You're getting the Western languages from the runic symbols. So it is important that it would be good to know the Aryans, isn't it? It's going to be the Aryans, the original Aryans that moved. I'd say Sanskrit and the runic symbol as the same system. But of course, those that moved north into Scandinavia, etc., they use the runic system. That's how I'd look at it anyway. The Parsons family formerly held titles in England and currently are the Earls of Ross in Ireland, headed up by Brendan Parsons, the 7th Earl of Ross, and his son Lawrence Parsons, the Lord of Oxmantown. So he's the Lord of Oxmantown. The Earls of Ross are extremely oppressive Freemasons and they oversee Wiccan gang-stalking cults operating in the United States. Now, I know a lot of people don't understand this gang-stalking, and unless you've moved against these people, you wouldn't understand what it is. But basically, as I've explained before, since they launched drugs, but it's been going on longer than that. They were getting that many criminals that they were catching with big sentences. For the last 20 years and some, well, probably for the last 30 years, it's given intelligence the ability to create a huge informing network, which is made up of criminals. You get caught. Oh, well, you're going to do 5 years. You want to come and work for us? Yeah, this is why crime off the street or your average guys just, separating themselves from the system and making their own way. It doesn't work anymore because everywhere and everything is being run by police intelligence. So when they say to you, we've got crime under control, they're not joking, It doesn't mean to say your average Bobby on the street knows this. But as an organisation, that's what's protecting the real criminal element that never get booked and busted or whatever. And the way they keep the streets clean is by ensuring that nearly everybody and everybody in it. So if you're a criminal today, somewhere in your trial, in your network, is an informant. So nothing you're doing is going to be secret, is it? Not only that, the technology that they've got as well today is difficult. And these the term gang stalking, it's an American term, but basically they can use these informers then to do criminal acts. So, like for instance, in my town, while being in the Chamber of Trade, there were spurges of crime specifically aimed at certain businesses in the town. Successful businesses that were not showing any sign of shutting anytime soon. They're the ones that were being targeted. And I explained that what's actually going on here is police intelligence. We're setting these people against that to get you to shut, because the intention is to shut all the town centres and turn all the shops into flats. That's going ahead. They call it regeneration. And Boris the Blonde Bombshell were in Accrington on Wednesday. I actually saw the motorcade. Didn't know it was Boris, had no idea he were coming. So I'm just travelling along, and all of a sudden these Hells Angels with police written on back on the motorbikes and these black Range Rovers, etc., coming past with, super soldier guy, kind of square face Jordan, what have you, guys all around him. And I just thought to myself, what terrified him's in that then? Because they say to you, we need it because we're very important people. No, the reason why they need that is because they're terrified of you. Because they know the minute you find out what's actually going on, or you allow yourself to see, they're in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So it's nothing to do with being very important. It's to do with him shit himself. And Boris was in the town pulling pints. So there we go. The Earls of Ross are extremely oppressive Freemasons. They oversee Wiccan gang stalking cults operating in the United States, but they also operate here as well. So let's just say you're living on an estate and you're not playing ball, you're not grassing, you're not being a neighbourhood watcher. You know what I'm saying? A bit of dog poo fell out your bag, and they've seen it and they want to kill you. If you're not fitting in, then through police intelligence, you can get your ass robbed, you can get your car damaged, you can get constant shit. It's out of nowhere. Well, this is where it comes from. And he's saying the Parsons family are running this over here and in Ireland. Their ancestor was Richard Parsons, the first Earl of Ross, and he was the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Ireland and co-founder of the Hellfire Club. The Hellfire Club's motto was "Faz ce que tu voudras," which means "do what thou wilt." And this motto was later used by Aleister Crowley. Yeah? So this is Hellfire Club, Grand Lodge of Ireland, where, Aleister Crowley, it's just another expression of this same pish. The Parsons family specialise in hellish Masonic warfare and are deeply involved with the Irish government, politics and astronomy. They have held the position of High Sheriff of Kings County. The Parsons Earls of Ross own Birr Castle, which is a telescope called the Leviathan of Parsonstown. Leviathan is a mythological sea serpent. It just means something massive, something huge. Where are we? The town of Birr, formerly called Parsonstown, uses the Parsons Panthers on their coat of arms. So if you're getting excited to get a panther on your arm, you might be being influenced from somebody who's a member of this bunch. There are various US politicians with the last name Parsons. Irish nobility are often involved in politics. Charles Algernon Parsons was a member of the Earls of Ross and an inventor of the steam engine and created C.R. Parsons and Company, which was later absorbed into Siemens. Okay? A large industrial company with about 130 billion in assets. Which, did you know all the traffic lights here in England are run by Siemens from an office in Germany? So you've got guys in Germany watching out traffic lights. Or the IAI is set up there. So this is Siemens. Ralph M. Parsons founded Parsons Corporation, which is a US engineering company with earnings at about $3 billion. Parsons Brinkerhoff is another US engineering company founded by William Barclay Parsons and now a subsidiary of WSP Global. William W. Parsons was NASA's director of Kennedy Space Center. Jack Parsons, I'm sure you've heard of Jack Parsons, worked with L. Ron Hubbard, who formed Scientology, to try and recreate Aleister Crowley's ritual to call in AWAS. Yeah? He actually talks about it here. So Jack Parsons was a rocket scientist and occultist that was known for creating Babylon working, which is a ritual to honour the mother of abominations. And he carried out this ritual with Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard. I didn't know he'd said it. The mother of abominations is also known as the Scarlet Woman. In Italian, Ross means red scarlet, and the name Ross likely comes from the Florentine house of De Rossi, in honour of Rome's conquering of Ireland. Florentine, Venetians, Lombardy, yeah. And they also took hold in North Wales. The Babylon working ritual is based on the teachings of Aleister Crowley. The Crowley family are an Anglo-Irish family that have intermarried with various British peers. Brian Crowley is an Irish politician today. Tony Parsons and Gary Crowley have worked together in the English music industry. The Parsons family also work with the Anglo-Irish Bailey and Guinness banking families and are involved in financing and directing Wiccan cults that carry out persecution, human sacrifice, and covert terrorism for the purpose of their attempt at global takeover. A high-level gang stalker and child murdering paedophile in my region is named Megan Parsons, so that's in his region, he says. So there you go. That's a bit of Siemens kind of stuff going down there as well. And then let's have a look. We've done the Vesper. What about Mars Boy? The humble Mars Boy. Yeah? Do you ever give that a second thought as anything untoward? Let's have a little look at this sponge. Okay. It says, Mars Crime Corporation. The Mars family are worth over 70 billion and are a top criminal bloodline in the United States, and they own one of the largest sweet companies in the world. John Franklin Mars was knighted by the House of Windsor and serves the British Crown. They add slow-acting poisons and chemicals into the candy as a form of chemical warfare on society, also known as alchemy. Artificial flavours and colours can cause diseases. They oppress humanity so that it is easier to control society. Well, the ruling insider, elite insider, said exactly that. If you're eating anything, if you're buying your food from a shop, then they're putting shit in it to create shorter lifespans, etc. And of course, he said he's doing that in accordance with divine law. Which divine? Whose divine is that then? They use their large amount of wealth to conceal criminal transactions used for funding Nazi-style persecution carried out by secret societies. The modernized concept of Halloween and trick-or-treating was established in 1911, the same year that Mars Candy Company was established. The Mars family were the Candia family of Venice, which ruled the kingdom of Candia, located on the island of Crete, during the height of the Venetian Republic. The Venetians were merchants involved in the sugar trade, and an Italian word for candy is candito. The ancient mystery schools covertly taught witchcraft and alchemy, and these schools were maintained on the islands of Crete, Malta, and Rhodes. The Candia family served the House of Savoy and governed territories for them. Stephen Badger's mother is Jacqueline Mars. The Thurnon Taxis family originated in northern Italy, and their name, Taxis, is from Tasso in Italian or Taxus in Latin, which means badger. So these guys are scrappers. Yeah, the badger's a scrapper. Yeah. So if I'm getting a bit dossing, if I'm dossing and getting lazy, I'll use certain cards just to show me what's around. And if it's telling me to get my ass in gear and do some badger will come up, which means you need to do some scrapping, or somebody's going to hit you with something, you're going to have to do some scrapping. So badger is definitely, which is why I'm pissed off that they're killing the badger on the British Isles, because they're removing the farmers, they're removing our scrappiness away from us shamanically. That's shamanic. You've got to look at these calls. They're also from just a physical, but the shamanic energy that we're going to lose, that you lose. And they're emaciating the badgers. Yeah. And they're giving you the deer, everything that's gentle and soft, while upping the eagle, the birds of prey, which, I mean, I come from that anyway. It's shamanically, so I'm not against it, but can you see everything's moving to predation, while you lot are being softened up and suppled up, encouraged to get a bit like just Sodom and Gomorrah, because 2031, sometime around there, bang, they're going to hit you like you've never believed, and you're going to be so in love with laziness and just satisfying desires. You're not going to have a clue what's hit you. Guys, you lot out there that are awake of this stuff, you're on the game. You're going to be ready for this. But the majority of everybody that regardless of what they have, whatever status they've got, these people are going to be in for the shock of their life. And there's going to be nothing anybody can do for them. The children are going to be wished off into these existing networks, and it's not going to be a very nice time. The Candia family served the House of Savoy and governed territories for them. Stephen Badger's mother is Jacqueline Mars. Oh, we've done that. I believe that the Badger family are relatives of the Taxis family. So there's actually a family called Badger, and anglicised their name. The Mars family still work with the Savoy family today and are involved with Swiss money laundering and criminally financing groups like Freemasons and Knights of Columbus, which are involved in gang stalking and persecution. Members of the Mars crime family include John Franklin Mars, Victoria Mars, Jacqueline Mars, and the very sadistic child molester Stephen Badger, whoever he is, I have no idea. This entire family is totally ruthless and destructive. The Mars family has a high authority like royalty inside the United States. Mars was the Roman deity of war. Of course he is. Then let's have a look. Now then, see, well, we'll have a look at. We'll go through this. The Bonaparte criminal naughty ones. Okay, so you guys okay? Yeah. Says the House of Bonaparte still covertly governed France. The Bonapartes are backed up by Rome and the Italian nobility, which have deep connections with France. The Bonaparte family has strong ties with Florentine nobility like the Corsini and Medici families, as Corsica is not far off the coast near Florence. See, Corsica, Napoleon was born in Corsica. That's where most of the Jesuits were took after they were thrown out of the Vatican. Yeah, Josephine was Carolingian. Yeah. We can see here where it's Florentine, that's Venetian. So we can see Venetian, we can see Prussian. We can see Prussian, we can see Jesuit. Yeah, everything at the face of it looks like this is Rome and it's been evil forever. And I'm not suggesting it hasn't always been a bit naughty, I'm not. But again, like I'm saying, it controls all our titles, for God's sake. You know, we've got to be aware of this stuff. Can't just go with the flow. They want you to annihilate it because you're annihilating yourself. And then you jumped over into the solar system and no had. Oh, that's not good. So the Bonaparte, Medici and Corsini families are the owners of the Corsican mafias, which operate out of France and Corsica. Napoleon Bonaparte was born in Corsica, so the Jesuits after 1815 have been operating for this Corsican mafia. Yeah, we've got to see it like that. Napoleon Bonaparte was born in Corsica and he made war on all the European nations that banished the Jesuits. Because, of course, the new Jesuits were his. Yeah, he had an army already made of people that didn't like all these royal families all of a sudden. Of course he's going to use them. Why is he not going to use him? Yeah, why? Of course he's going to use them. And they demolished every single Christian kingdom in Europe and allowed this one. Because Wellington's part of this lot family, and we might get into that. Depends which one. I forgot which one it's in, but they're all interconnected, everything. So this is what I'm saying to you. You look at this and think to yourself, we're getting an insight into the Committee of 300 families designate. But of course, amongst them, we're getting some of the top users as well. Good evening to you, LLA. Yep, excellent. Right, so where are we? Napoleon Bonaparte was also the first political Zionist who proclaimed for all Jews to settle in Jerusalem and attempted to militarily conquer Jerusalem. Napoleon established the Legion of Honor with the President of France as the Grand Master, who also holds the title of the Honorary Canon of the Papal Archbasilica of St. John, which is the ecclesiastical seat of the Pope. The President of France is a front for the House of Bonaparte. Okay, so that's Macron. I have looked, there is a family running him. I don't know whether it's in this one. Louis Napoleon Bonaparte III was the first president of France. Emmanuel Macron, here we go, is the current president of France and was Jesuit educated at the Lycée La Providence and also worked for the Rothschild Bank. Bernard Arnault is worth about 75 billion and a Knight of the Legion of Honor and chairman and CEO of LVMH. I'm not sure what that is. The Mullers family are owners of Aachen and are worth at least 30 billion. Aachen's founder, Gerard Mullers, is a Knight of the Legion of Honor. So this Legion of Honor is pretty important. Patrick Poyan is CEO and chairman of the oil company Total. And he's also a Knight of the Legion of Honor. Jacques Servier is worth over 7 billion as the founder and president of Servier Laboratoires and a Knight of the Legion of Honor. Oh, Alan Greenspan was knighted under Legion of Honor. Whoa. See, now it must be an exceptionally powerful organisation, this Legion of Honor. If Alan Greenspan has been knighted as it. That's probably one of the smartest guys I've ever heard at such an high level when he speaks. But you've got to watch his things a lot. You've got to keep watching what he said. Doesn't say much these days, but when he was the chairman of the Fed, everything he said, you'd to look at it and break it down. And my word, do they tell you what the crack is? You just haven't got a clue what they're saying. Yeah, so Alan Greenspan was knighted under the Legion of Honor and was a former chairman of the United States Federal Reserve. I remember one interview he said something like, he said something and then said at the end of it, and if you understand what I said, then I may have made a mistake. So I think he was sort of thinking he cocked up a bit there. I don't think anybody understood it, to be quite honest. The American billionaire Walter Annenberg was a Knight of the Legion of Honor. A knight is defined as a military servant. Prince Jean-Christophe Napoleon Bonaparte is considered the head of the imperial house of Bonaparte today. Remember, this is 2018. His mother is Princess Beatrice of Bourbon, the two Sicilies of Italian nobility, with his uncle being Prince Carlo of Bourbon, two Sicilies. These two Sicilies is very important. Prince Sixtus Henry of Bourbon-Parma and Bourbons were French, is a member of Italian nobility. However, he resides in France and is a Grand Master of the Order of St. Lazarus and also a Knight of Malta. The House of Noailles is a French nobility and functions as support for the House Bonaparte, with Prince Antoine de Noailles, the Duke of Poix, as a top member. I'm probably saying all these words wrong. I do apologise. Prince Hila de Noailles is the head of this family and has worked in the French government as an advisor. His son is Emmanuel de Noailles, and I'll just spell that. It's N-Noah. Oh, Noah. Interesting. Noailles. The Duke of Ayen, which is Ayen. Prince Hele of Noailles' grandmother was Margaretha von Rothschild. The French Fold banking family worked for the House of Bonaparte, with Bouillon Fold as finance minister for Napoleon III. The Fold family also married with the Rothschild family several times. Prince Jean-Christophe Napoleon Bonaparte has worked for Morgan Stanley, Advent International, which is a major buy firm with assets estimated at 31 billion. And he currently works for Blackstone Group. Right? You see, you're all focused to just the Jewish side of things and the House of Windsor to BlackRock, but here you go. Baroness Tessa Blackstone of the UK is the chairwoman of the Franco-British Council. French presidents are the heads of the Bonaparte's Legion of Honor, which has many members that are billionaires and heads of major corporations. And banks like Paolo Scaroni, Alfred Dreyfus, Pierre-Louis Dreyfus, Jean-Pierre Clamadieu, Benoît Poitiers, I'm going to be able to speak French for carrying like this, Pierre-André Chalander, and René Obermann. Pierre-André de Chalander is married with Laetitia Petrie, the daughter of the British Baron Peter Petrie, who is also a Knight of the Legion of Honor and former member of the Franco-British Council. The British-French connections are related to the Channel Islands off the French coast, which are part of the United Kingdom. Well, we know what goes on down there, don't we? Queen Elizabeth II is sometimes referred to as the Duchess of Normandy by the people of the Channel Islands. The remaining French branch of the Dreyfus family also served the House of Bonaparte, with Marie Jean-Louis Dreyfus Mayer as a current member and shareholder in Louis Dreyfus Group. I have a report on Margarita Louis Dreyfus as probably one of the richest women in Russia. She doesn't live in Russia, of course, but that's what the reports say. I'll put these up after, of course. The House of Maupeou, which is Maupeou, Maupeou in Albigeses and Bruyères, are still working with the French royalty. The Maupeou family held the positions of Chancellor of France and still have chateaux, noble titles, land, and businesses today in France. Count Charles de Maupeou is the head of this family. The Rochechouart family, headed up by Prince Charles Emmanuel de Rochechouart, probably saying that well, rubbish, or French nobility which fought in the Napoleonic War for the House of Bonaparte. The Rochefoucauld is an ancient French nobility currently headed by the Prince Francois the 19th de la Rochefoucauld. Hang on. De la Rochefoucauld. I'm swearing. I'm not swearing, Grandma. The Duke of Lancourt. Count Robert de la it's Roche, isn't it? Rochefoucauld was a. That's better. Let's just put a bit. Let's apply myself here. Rochefoucauld was a French count who worked with the British Special Operations Agency during World War II. The Bonaparte family have married with the Aldobrandini papal nobility of Rome, with Pauline Bonaparte as the wife of Don Camillo Borghese Aldobrandini, the sixth Prince of Salmona. David Rennie de Rothschild, who is the current head of the French Rothschild family branch and head of the Rothschild's bank, is married to Princess Olympia, which we've discussed. Aldobrandini, who has Bonaparte ancestry through her ancestors, Prince Camillo Borghese Aldobrandini. The Colonna Walewski family of Italian and Polish origin have intermarried with the House of Bonaparte as well. Charles Joseph Bonaparte was a US Attorney General and helped to establish the FBI. So, the FBI, it was put together from this Bonaparte military network, which is Prussian. It's the Prussians, it's the Jesuits, yeah, the new Jesuits. Can you see? This is how we've got to see this. It's all right. There's 10 a penny out there going, oh, it's all the Jesuits, blah, 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 blah. Not every Jesuit's a badass. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the shows in the alternative media are there to do. Say, there they go, it's all their fault, blah, 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 blah. Then we're not pretending for a second that the Jesuits are not up to no good. They've been up to no good since 1815. But not everybody that's a Jesuit knew that. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody that becomes a priest or a vicar, they're not right bright, some of these people. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not the program, is it? The program is just to be in awe of everybody above you. You're not trained to use your own brain. The Colonna Walewski family of Italian Polish have intermarried with the House of Bonaparte as well. Charles Joseph Bonaparte, yeah, blah, 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 blah. So he helped to establish the FBI. Charles Bonaparte was a great nephew of Napoleon I. The Italian nobility and Bonaparte family are working closely together like a crime syndicate with the intent of dominating over society. Prince Charles Napoleon Bonaparte, Prince Jean-Christophe Napoleon Bonaparte, and Prince Jerome Napoleon Bonaparte are the current members of the oppressive House of Bonaparte. So that's another bunch of buggers at it. You know, all mixed in. And of course, we still don't understand whether this Ashkenazi bunch have actually took the power or they're just still fronting. And it does, you know, they're still fronting. David Hurd, Paige Parsons. Tick the like for. Yeah, get that like ticked. You know what I'm saying? Well, of course, if you don't like it, don't. You know, it's only fair, isn't it? Right, so what else can we get a look at? Now then. So, this is what he has to say about the use of hip-hop to push this Sharia law. Now, I've said this before. The Sharia law is the body of law supposedly formed according to the Quran. That is not the case today, and it hasn't been the case for quite a long time. Okay, so I've put that across in many reports. It's been said, I've sent it to many of respectful Muslim leaders, and they've agreed with what I've seen, which, you know, all I've done is read the Quran. I've read it twice, so I know what it says, so I know what I'm talking about. If somebody comes at me and says I'm a Muslim and blah, 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 I can say, no, you kafir, go away, you're fool, because you've no idea what your book says. So, I don't need to guess. I don't need to. I think Tommy Robinson would probably do better to read the whole thing. He probably made a better job of communicating what it was he was trying to communicate instead of running around on hate and used by Israel. But then he went into that all by himself. and the sacrifice was the BNP. And that guy, I can't remember his name, who I did look into, and I found him to be an exceptionally sound and sane guy. Griffin, was he called Griffin? So, the way he promoted and pushed over the media just made him out to be an absolute rotter. But the guy was absolutely, there was nothing I found of his work, his speeches that was contrary to England. Maybe you shouldn't have used the term British National Party. Would have probably been a better idea. Anyway, okay, Sharia Law, Brotherhood, and Order of Hashashins is the title. He says the Islamic supremacist and rapper Jay Electronica is a top Masonic cult leader in the Nation of Islam and 5% Nation. The Nation of Islam is like an Americanized and Masonic version of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Nation of Islam was founded in Detroit, Michigan. The Dearborn Mosque in Michigan is run by the Muslim Brotherhood and uses proxy groups that have been promoting Sharia law in the United States. The 5%ers and Fruit of Islam operate like the modern-day Hashashins or assassins. 5%ers teach supreme mathematics, which is a form of numerology. Masons use numerology for architecting the mind control programs. These groups are also connected with Islamic and black supremacist groups like the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, that's your Black Lives Matter. Jay Electronica dated Kate Rothschild and resided in London for a period of time, where he was trained by the British Knights Templar Freemasons in advanced Solomon witchcraft and mind control. The Nation of Islam and 5%ers share similar ideologies as the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a Sunni organization founded in Egypt. Mohammed Al-Fayed is an Egyptian billionaire that set up his business operations in Italy and London. Front for the Sultan of Brunei was old Mohammed Al-Fayed. Several high-level British peers were. I've added that. He's not said that. Several high-level British peers work with Islamic businessmen like the Grosvenor and Percy families. Let me tell you that again. Several high-level British peers work with Islamic businessmen like the Grosvenor and Percy families. Okay. The Templars work with the Masonic Al-Hashashin or assassins during the Crusades. Occult means hidden or secret. They are occultic assassins. Abdallah bin Bayar is Saudi Arabia's top Sufi occultists. 5%ers are modern-day assassins, and many of their agents are murderous and target white people and especially target white women. The Arab royal families and merchants were known for sex trafficking of European and African women. Arab and Berber Barbary pirates kidnapped European women for sex slaves and sold them in Africa and the Middle East. Jay Electronica is an admitted member of the 5%ers and the Nation of Islam, which are Islamic black supremacist groups. Jay Electronica changed his name from Timothy El Pardo Thedford, that's a bit shit, isn't it, to El Padro F. Electronica. Allah. Jay Electronica's girlfriend is Erika Badu, who is a follower of Farrakhan, had Allah tattooed on her and said, I saw something good in Hitler. Well, for the fact she's had Allah tattooed on her, she's kafir, and according to the Quran, kafir have to be killed. This is why Muslims need to be extra careful what they're being pushed with. And I do have an interesting little story to tell you. We'll read this first. Right, so let's have a look. Erika Badu, who is a follower of Farrakhan, had Allah tattooed on her arm and said, I saw something good in Hitler. Well, they will do. They will do. And now we'll explain why. Adolf Hitler was allied with some Muslims during World War II, and one of the founders of the Nazi ideology was Rudolf von Seppendorf, a convert to Islam and Sufi occultist. Jay Electronica is signed to Jay-Z's Rock Nation and uses the name Jay for Jay-Z, who is also a member of the Nation of Islam and a top boss of the almighty Viceroy Nation. Jay-Z is worth over 800 million. The organized crime group of AVLN was founded in Chicago and was financed by the Rockefeller family through a grant. The Nation of Islam is also headquartered in Chicago. This is why Jay-Z calls his record company Rockefeller. Jay-Z is the top crime boss of the AVLN and involved in money laundering, criminal financing, and domestic terrorism. Jay-Z was involved in financing, commanding the gang stalkers that relentlessly targeted my cousin. So this is this guy's cousin. This guy was thick in it, let me get you right. And I was communicating when he were in full battle for his life. And now I've heard nothing from him since, and there's nothing. So I do hope nothing happened to him. Let's have a look. That relentlessly targeted my cousin, which led to him committing suicide by choking himself to death. Jay Electronica is a Muslim member of the Nation of Islam and has connections with the Rothschild family. So this guy was involved with all this rap scene, okay, that I'm talking about. And I communicated with him throughout 2018 because we were both putting out similar stuff, and that's how we came together. Jay Electronica is a Muslim member of the Nation of Islam and connected with the Rothschild family. The French Rothschilds family are intermarried with the Aldo Brandini family of Rome. The name Aldo Brandini derives from the Arabic word Aldobrand, and they have an Arabic ancestry from the Moorish invasion. So, okay, see, the Moors they're still in this, at the thick of it, at the top of it, and these guys were slavers. Yeah. The Moors invaded Europe and were involved in the sex trafficking of European women as a continuation of the Arab slave trade. Moors were mostly Arabs and Berbers, and used some Moors were mostly Arabs and Berbers, and used some non-Arab Africans as mercenaries. The black nobility of Rome, the Rothschild family, and the House of Saud are all working together and directing and financing various secret societies, organized crime, and supremacist groups. The link between all of these groups is occultism and Satanism. Pope Benedict XVI has a Moor on his papal coat of arms and was good friends with King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. Weren't King Abdullah the good guy? Because Pope Benedict, if you actually read, before he was Pope, if you actually read some of his papers, it's beautiful what he was saying, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's why they had to get rid of him and bring in this Prussian girl from Argentina. When they had a meeting at the Vatican, they were holding hands, yeah. And if I'm correct, King Abdullah was a good guy. And I've also studied a lot of papers to Pope Benedict before he became Pope. Then them two guys were sat there on their own, shitting themselves because they knew what were around and what were going on. That could be why they were doing that. The House of Saud is Sunni Muslims like the Muslim Brotherhood, and they basically share the exact ideologies of imposing their religion as Sharia law, as state law. Some agents of the 5% Nation and Nations of Islam also include members of Wu-Tang like RZA, GZA, as well as Nas, AZ Papoose, and Meek Mill. These rappers are all involved in organised crime, and many praise the Italian mafia in their lyrics. When I first exposed that there is an Islamic mafia operating in New Jersey ports and working with the Italian mafia, I had thugs parked in front of my house at 3 a.m. the next night. RZA suddenly let me know that he knows where I live. So this guy knows these rappers, yeah? Through covert gang stalking and cyber stalking tactics. Right before this, RZA is also a top military commander over Wiccan cults and works with various secret societies. RZA is pure evil. Jay Electronica has been teaching other rappers and members of these groups the more advanced mind control techniques he learned while in London. Wiz Khalifa takes his stage name from the Arabic word Khalifa, which is the name of the current ruling family of Bahrain, with King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. Wiz is for wizard. Their sorcery is mind control. Jay Electronica, who thinks he's Allah, is extremely murderous and destructive. Erika Badu is highly... You see, to think he's Allah, that's kafir. Any Muslim that knows Islam properly would have him down as kafir. So if you're a Muslim and you've picked up this guy, Jay Electronica, you need to have a rethink. You know what I'm saying? Erika Badu is highly trained in voodoo, witchcraft, and very sadistic. They are involved in satanic sexual ritual abuse and mind control, and they specifically target white people. They are also involved in murder, persecution, and organised crime through covert methods. The Nation of Islam is run by the millionaire Louis Farrakhan, who is an FBI COINTELPRO agent and part of the FBI's Project Megiddo. Farrakhan is like the Islamic and black version of David Duke. COINTELPRO is about the FBI using their agents to infiltrate political and religious groups as a means to radicalize them. COINTELPRO is considered a criminal operation carried out by elements in the FBI. Their goal is Armageddon, or a holy war in the US. As I've said before, they have to put the Islamist mind all over our lands, along with the Zionists, so that the war is actually carried out on our land. Yeah, and of course that's now in because off they went all over the shop since 2003. Their goal, the Nation of Islam also has a paramilitary division called the Fruit of Islam. David Mohammed is another high-level member of the Nation of Islam. Barack Obama was knighted by the House of Saud and frequently used drones for targeted killings of Shia Muslims and enemies of the House of Saud in Yemen. Barack Obama implied he is a Muslim. He has Muslim faith in an interview. Obama and his friend LeBron James are high-level Islamic Shrine of Freemasons. Again, he's kafir because his wife's got a cock. That's kafir. No Muslim would accept Barack Obama as a Muslim. Yeah, only the kafir would. Obama and his friend LeBron James are high-level Islamic Shrine of Freemasons. So that's the order of ancient nobles of the mystic shrine. I've got a paper on that. I'll put that up as well. The Saudi royal family used the Muslim Brotherhood as a proxy, and the Muslim Brotherhood uses the Nation of Islam and 5%ers as their proxies. Members of black supremacist groups and Islamic supremacist groups are also being financed to spread racial division as a form of divide and conquer. Jay-Z finances and directs shills in liberal media channels like CNN. Mid-Eastern billionaires funnel their wealth through Middle Eastern banks based in Geneva, Switzerland, where bank accounts are private. Well, bank accounts should be private. You see, I don't have a problem with all that kind of stuff. You know, if a man wants to earn money, why do you want to pay tax? You know, persons will pay tax. Yeah, that's fine. If you get an income, pay tax. If you're exchanging your labour, there's no tax, no income. Get it? That's a little bit of law there for you again, so you can have a look. Where bank accounts are private, like Arab Bank, MBAD Private Bank, MBK Bank, and QNB Bank, and then use US-based investment companies like BlackRock investments to mass transactions through foreign shell companies. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, second cousin-in-law, is Margarita Louis-Dreyfus of Switzerland. I've got a paper on her. And her boyfriend is Philip Hildebrand, the vice chairman of BlackRock, which is headquartered in New York City. The Dreyfus clan came to Europe during the Moorish invasions, known as Marranos, or half-Jews, which were Babylonian Horite Sephardics. The Egyptian Suarez family are worth around 36 billion and have global enterprises and operations in Switzerland. The Mansour family are Egyptian billionaires, and all three brothers went to school in the United States. Now, the reason why I'm saying we're dealing with Committee 300, because we're talking at figures less than, trillions. The fundies make billions look like pennies. We're talking nations. These fundies have control of nations in the bank, You've got bank accounts and assets. These guys go, I've got this country, I've got that country, and I've got that continent. Let's put that together. That's the funding. And how the old school money move their assets to their own agenda, and everybody else dances to it. Yeah. But there is no one to investigate the Arab billionaire royals who rule their own nations, and that is why they are used for money laundering and making criminal payoffs. Wealthy millionaires and billionaires like Jay-Z often use their wealth to mask the money laundering and criminal transactions. This group is a greater threat to America than ISIS. There is a plot involving criminal and occultic organizations within Islam that want to destabilize the United States and take it over. The Muslim Brotherhood, Nation of Islam, and 5%ers are radical Islamic supremacists and terrorist organizations. The House of Saud and their allies in the UAE and other Sunni Arab nations are the ones behind Islamic fascism. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and his brother Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman are Saud, are the primary leaders of this group. So if you're living in Dubai, you want to start shitting yourself because they've got you there for a reason. And it's not good. But of course, you probably deserve it. You know what I'm saying? So who gives a shit? No, that's just me being facetious on our Beltane of May the 1st, which I'm allowed to be because I said so. Now, where are we? Now then, what would be another good one? Yeah, this is an interesting one because it gives you the meaning to, the order of the bath. Let's get a little insight into where that comes from and what it's all about. Now then, it says the clan of Gehinnom. That's Gehinnom. The House of Windsor are one of the most wicked and satanic bloodlines. Remember, this is what he's saying. I'm just presenting. They are involved with human sacrifices, mind control, satanic ritual abuse, cannibalism, drinking blood, bathing in blood, human trafficking, opium trafficking, terrorism, money laundering, and war profiteering. Prince Charles openly claims to be descended from Vlad Dracul or Vlad the Impaler, and he owns Vlad the Impaler's old castle in Transylvania. Well, I don't really have a problem with that thing. Yeah, I mean, you go back to his time, and he were keeping the Persians at bay. The Persians were slaughtering everybody. So the reason why he impaled them all was to scare them off. They didn't come anywhere near once they came into the forest. However, he did start to get a little bit silly. Obviously, he got a bit too excited with doing that, and it became such a fun time. Everybody used to bathe in blood and all sorts of nonsense. It was a bit naughty. So Prince Charles, the black nobility boy, he's actually now, is he sharing the Queen's stuff? Blah, blah, blah. Or our stuff, remember that office of monarch belongs to us. They're involved with you, but I've done that. Prince Charles openly claims to descend from Vlad, and he owns the old castle in Transylvania. Vlad Dracul was known for being sadistic and tormenting his victims. Dracul means dragon, and the Dracul family were members of the Order of the Dragon. Vlad Dracul was the Prince of Wallachia. Prince Charles is the Prince of Wales. Wales gets its name from Walha. Wales uses a red dragon on its flag. Some Transylvanian nobility covertly settled in Scotland, and later on they likely married in with the House of Stuart, which share lineage with the House of Windsor. Prince Charles is extremely sadistic and ruthless, and he is backed up by his German cousin, Prince Philip Hohenlohe-Langenberg, along with his Wiccan wife, Saskia Binder. The Estonian word law and Hohenlohe means dragon, and in German means flame. The House of Hohenlohe and Prince Charles are top members of the modern Order of the Dragon. Members of the British House of Rothschild are knighted by the House of Windsor. The Rothschild and Goldsmith families are the Windsor's Jewish court factors and financiers and knighted by the crown. The Rothschild family are used to distract from the Windsor family, which have more power and authority. Now, you don't get to hear that anywhere else, do you? So that's something to keep in mind as a potential. Queen Elizabeth II takes her name from Dracul's cousins, the Bathory family. Now, Bathory, okay? I don't know whether you've ever heard of this before, but there is a particular woman always talking about it here. From Dracul's cousins, the Bathory family, and Elizabeth Bathory, who was a serial killer known as the Blood Countess, and claims that she bathed in the blood of hundreds of young women. She's an interesting show. Just look up Elizabeth Bathory. Interesting. Very interesting. The House of Windsor run the Order of the Bath, which really takes its name after the Bathory family. So for bathing in the blood of females, Elizabeth Bathory was created the Order of the Bath. Which is why Churchill was a part of it. They covertly continue their ancestors' blood rituals of bathing in blood, and they wear blood red capes during the public ceremonies. One of their idols is a man calling himself Zeus Ombrios and lives in Margam, Neath, Port Talbot. So Zeus Ombrios. And that's here in the United Kingdom. He has images of himself with blood painted cross on his face and is initiated into the Windsor Order of the Bath and works with Prince William and his cousin Viscount Louis Spencer. He's involved in human sacrifice. This impostor is pure evil and gets paid to undermine me non-stop. So he's actually classing this particular guy as undermining him, Louis Spencer, or Zeus Ombrius. He's involved in human sacrifice. This impostor is pure evil and gets paid to undermine me non-stop. Jimmy Savile was a close friend with Prince Charles, and he was accused hundreds of times of paedophilia and sexual abuse. Jimmy Savile was a knight of the British Empire and also a Vatican Knight of the Order of St. Gregory. Now then, there you go, Jimmy the Savile, Knight of the British Empire and Order of St. Gregory. Canada is a crown colony, and throughout past century there has been many official reports of missing Aborigine children that were taken from their parents and forced into crown schools and crown wards or orphanages. Missing children is acknowledged in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. The Windsor family traffic and murder children and run a global satanic cult. Nearly every time I expose this sick family, they put out propaganda pieces in the media as their defence. The House of Windsor have a harp on their coat of arms. The harp was used for bewitching minds in ancient time. That's true. They have authority over the US Air Force's HARP system, which is irradiating the atmosphere with electromagnetic waves and is used for mass mind control and weather manipulation. HARP is named in reference to the harp and its use in ancient mind control. Wind soars like wind and tornadoes. The House of Windsor are funding and running satanic cults in the United Kingdom and United States, and these cults are involved in mind control, satanic ritual abuse, and human sacrifice. Well, that is strictly pretty much true, because a lot of Freemasons is running a lot of these. What do they call themselves? Anarchist groups. You know, these little satanic covens. They all hold in high regard the Crown family. So they're not doing it directly, but they're doing it indirectly through these secret societies. Prince Edward is Prince Edward is the Grand Master of the Grand Lord of England. I thought it was Duke of Kent. Is the Duke of Kent retired? I think you might be wrong there. It's Prince Edward, the Grand Master. You know, I've got to just a minute. I've got to just check this out. I've never read that before. No, the Duke of Kent. So he's wrong there. He's definitely wrong there. So the Grand Master is HRH Duke of Kent. The Pro Grand Master is Peter Lowndes, and Jonathan Spence is the Deputy Grand Master. Sir David Wooten is Assistant Grand Master. Geoffrey Deering is President of the Board. And Dr. David Staples is the Grand Secretary. So he's definitely wrong on that. Where would he get? Why would he think that? That's interesting. So like I said, we're exploring. We're not taking everything as fact. But when I spoke with him, he really did seem to know a lot of stuff that I already knew. So I knew he knew a lot of stuff. But we're all prone to get things incorrect. The peerages also manage Freemasonry, and there are tens of thousands of Masonic lodges in the United States. Yeah, but they're mainly Scottish Rite lodges in the US. The English lodge is the York Rite, hence New York. Yeah, that's why it's called New York. Freemasons are involved with satanic ritual, abuse, mind control, paedophilia, blood drinking, other various wickedness. Now, that's not your uncle who's a Mason. He doesn't have a clue. We're talking about the occult levels, you know, all those above the third level. That's where the occult stuff's going on. So, you know, don't be looking at your uncle who's a Mason. He doesn't have a clue. He's just making money, and he thinks he's looking out for you. You know what I'm saying? The Windsor family also manage the Skull and Bones Secret Society at Yale. Yale was established under the British Crown's authority and through a Crown colony. Yeah, but from a German lodge. It's chapter 322 of the German lodges. Yeah, but these are a German family. You've got to remember that. So, yeah. Skull and Bones is a military council and death cult inside the United States with the Bush family as top members. They also use war to initiate death squads used for persecution and assassinations on a domestic level. The Windsor family are covert owners of private militaries like Erinyes International and Aegis Defence Services, which are run by former British military like Tim Spicer, who was knighted under the order of the British Empire. Prince Harry, who was active in the war in Afghanistan, no, he wasn't. I've spoke to people who served with him. No, he wasn't. All right. Harry, who was active in the war in Afghanistan, worships violence, death, and Holocaust destruction. I don't know. I don't really give a shit. Prince William is a sexual sadist, serial killer. That's quite a. Ooh, I don't know about that. I'm not going to just repeat that because I don't know whether that's true. I've never read anything of that. So Windsor claims to be part owners of the United States as a continuation of the Virginia Company. The United States is defined as a federal corporation under US Code 3002, Section 15. Founding fathers were British and Scottish Freemasons. George Herbert Walker Bush is a British Knight of the Order of the Bath and serves the Windsor family. The Walker family were Virginian politicians involved in transforming the Virginia Company into the United States during the Revolutionary War. The Gulf War, Afghanistan War, and Iraq War occurred under the Bush family. The Windsor and Bush families are controlling the opium production in Afghanistan, which produces the majority of the world's opium. Since the US invasion, their opium operation has continued to the British Crown's East India Company, which controlled the opium trade. They currently sell it to pharmaceutical companies, and the rest is provided to mafias, which process it into heroin and have it distributed on the streets. Opium is a strong depressant and is now being used to weaken society as they attempt out. That's exactly what they did to China. That's exactly what they did to China, and now it's come back. The British Crown attempted to do this to China, which led to them seizing Hong Kong. When the Emperor banned the opium, the British Crown still have major control over Hong Kong, which is economic leverage over the rest of China. Well, no, I'm not sure. The Windsor, you see that the mantle's been handed to the corporation China, the smiling Z. He's the CEO of China, the corporation. The Windsor family also has leverage over organised crime in Hong Kong, like the Triads. The British Crown was ruling Hong Kong until 1997, and many top bankers and businessmen in Hong Kong are British Knights. Prince Charles has covert authority over the Hells Angels motorcycle crime syndicate. Now, that's interesting because back in the 90s, I knew quite a few Hells Angels, and so I knew a couple of members from the Satan Slaves in Bradford, and what was actually happening there was this one particular guy, I forget his name, the leader, he was just a classic Masonic front politicising the Hells Angels groups. And that was going on in the 90s, and a lot of them were leaving because they politicised it. It completely politicised the whole thing and completely changed its entire ethos. So that could very well be correct. Many members of the Hells Angels, descendants of the Irish and Scottish clans, the Hells Angels established themselves in the United States, in the United Kingdom, after the Beatles invited them. The Hells Angels set up churches in New Zealand and Canada, which are nations ruled by the House of Windsor. Prince Charles is the head of the cult of hell, and the Hells Angels are like his minions. They are known for blowing up their enemies. The Hells Angels, not here, they don't. The Hells Angels don't do that here. They just ride around and get pissed. The Hells Angels have also infiltrated the trucking industry and work with other. Well, I'll go with that actually, and work with other organised crimes groups in trafficking weapons, drugs, and human beings. When I first exposed the House of Windsor owns the Hells Angels, I had the Hells Angel Park in front of my house. The Windsor family are the top authority over Freemasonry through the Grand Lodge of England, with Prince Edward as the Grand Master. He's not the Grand Master, man. Prince Michael of Kent is the Grand Master of the Order of Mort Master Masons. I'm going to have to check that out because I'd be very surprised if this guy would get that wrong. And he's presented it again, so I'm going to have to look at it. I know he is the Grand Master, but what it looks like he's suggesting here is something else. I'll have to look into that. So members of the House of Windsor include Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Edward, Charles, Camilla, Alexandria, Andrew, Anne, Sophie, William, Catherine, Harry, Meghan, Prince Michael of Kent, Lady Gabriella, Frederick Windsor, Edward of Kent, Prince George, Lord David Armstrong Jones of Snowdon, Prince Richard of Gloucester, and Prince Alexander of Ulster. Right, so there is the clan of Geninum. Very interesting there. So I've got lots more of these. We can do these another time. But there's just some interesting data that you don't get anywhere else. You know, these names, these families, it all seems to centre on Israel and Britain and the United States. But, you know, running all this kind of stuff, because you're only seeing the Committee of 300 when you look at them families and adventures. We're not getting the right info. So how could we possibly know what we're up against? Now, let's have a look at the groovy stuff. How then did we do that? Oh, I can't remember what we did at the end of the last. Okay, oh no, here we go. Right, so herbs, and this is from Culpeper's English Physician, and we're on water agrimony. It says it is called in some countries water hemp, and bastard agrimony. Also, eupatorium and hepatorium, because it strengthens the liver. Description: the root continues a long time, having many long, slender firings and stalks, grow up about 2 feet high, sometimes higher. They are of a dark purple colour. The branches are many, growing at a distance, the one from the other. The one from the one side of the stalk, is that F again? The other from the opposite point. The leaves are winged and much indented at the edges. The flowers grow at the tops of the branches of a brown-yellow colour, spotted with black spots, having a substance within the midst of them like that of a daisy. If you rub them between your fingers, they smell like rosin or cedar when it is burnt. The seeds are long and easily stick to any woolen thing they touch. Place, they delight not in heat, and therefore they are not so frequently found in the southern parts of England, as in the north, where they grow frequently. You may look for them in cold grounds by ponds and ditch sides, as also by running waters. Sometimes you will find them grow in the midst of the waters. Time, they all flower in July and August, and the seed is ripe presently after. Government and virtues. It is a plant of Jupiter, as well as the other agrimony, only this belongs to the celestial sign Cancer. It healeth and drieth, cutteth and cleanseth, thick and tough humours of the breast, and for this I hold it inferior to but few herbs that grow. I'm sure I've done this. Yeah, where are we there? I've lost that again. And I hold it inferior to few but herbs that grow. It helps the cachexia or evil disposition of the body, the dropsy and yellow jaundice. It opens obstructions of the liver and mollifies the hardness of the spleen. Being applied outwardly, it breaks imposthumes. Taken inwardly, it is an excellent remedy for the third day augur. It provokes urine, and the term it kills worms and cleanseth the body of short humours, which are the cause of itch, scabs, and etc. If you smoke the herb, being burnt drives away flies, wasps, etc. So I've done these. I don't know. I think I've been a bit naughty, and no, I'm sure I've not done it. Never mind, we'll do it. Country people give it to their cattle when they are troubled with a cough or broken-winded. Ale hoof or ground ivy. Several countries give it several names, so that there is scarcely a herb growing of that bigness that have got so many. F again. It is called cat's foot, ground ivy, Jill go by grounded, and Jill creep by ground. Tun hoof, hay maids, and ale hoof. Description: This well-known herb lieth, spreadeth, and creepeth upon the ground, shooting forth roots at the corners of the tender jointed stalks, set all along with 2 round leaves at every joint, somewhat hairy, crumpled, and unevenly dented about the edges, with round dents at the joints. Likewise with the leaves towards the ends of the branches come forth hollow long flowers of a bluish purple colour, with small white spots upon the lips that hang down. The root is small, with furrings. Place. It is commonly found under the hedges and on the sides of ditches, under houses or in shadowed lanes and other waste grounds in almost every part of the land. Of course, you're speaking of England. Time. They flower somewhat early and abide so a great while. For a great while. And abide for, a great while. The leaves continue green until winter and sometimes abide, except the winter be very sharp and cold. Government and virtues. It is a herb of Venus and therefore cures the diseases it causes sympathy with, and those of Mars by antipathy. You may usually find it all year long, except the weather be extreme frosty. It is quick, sharp, and bitter in taste. And is hereby and thereby found to be hot and dry. A singular herb for all inward wounds, ulcerated lungs, or other parts, or ulcerated lungs, either by itself or boiled with other like herbs, and being drunk in a short time easeth all gripping pain or griping pains. So that's your stomach. Windy or choleric humours, and in the stomach, spleen, or belly helps the yellow jaundice by opening the stoppings of the gall and liver, and melancholy by opening the stoppings of the spleen. Expelleth venom or poison, and also the plague. It provoketh urine and women's courses. The decoction of it in wine drunk for some time together procureth ease unto them that are troubled with the sciatica or hip gout, as also the gout in the hands, knees, or feet. And if you put to the deco some honey and a little burnt alum, it is excellent good to gargle any sore mouth or throat, and to wash the sores and ulcers in the privy parts of a man or a woman. It speedily helpeth green wounds, being bruised and bound thereto. The juice of it, boiled with a little honey and verdigris, doth wonderfully cleanse fistulas, ulcers, and stayeth the spreading or eating of cancers under ulcers. It helpeth the itch, scabs, wheals, and other breakings out in any part of the body. The juice of celandine, field daisies, and ground ivy, clarified, and a little fine sugar dissolved therein and dropped into the eyes, is a sovereign remedy for all the pains, redness, and watering of them, as also for the pin and web, skins and films growing over the sides. But that's, you wouldn't need the cataract stuff. This stuff does it. It helpeth beasts as well as men. The juice dropped into the ears doth wonderfully help the noise and ringing of them, and helpeth the hearing which is decayed. It is good to tun up with new. It is good to tun up with new drink, for it will so clarify it at night that it will be fit to be drunk the next morning. Or so you have to leave it overnight. Or if any drink be thick with removing or any other accident, it will do the like in a few hours. So that's another couple of herbs there, well worth keeping your old beady eyes on, because they're doing a lot of, so much of this stuff that we've looked at in these last few weeks, these live streams, pretty much do everything that all these meds are doing, especially for your eyes. People think the only thing you can do is go to these opticians. Well, I went to an optician's last, and she said to me, I was asking blah, 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 blah. I said, they're not quite right. She said, well, the government says. I said, what the hell has the government got to do with my eyes? She just laughed. I said, no. We're not even thinking like that. This is what I need. That's what I want. Thank you very much. But you're all being run on government policy, even on your eyeballs. Now then, what you guys saying? Northern Element, who's ye? I think it's got a bit of a tosser there. Can we get rid of him? Another joker. Twin Turner, Sean, I love to hear all those knowledge, but you tend to talk a wee bit too fast. I can't keep up, but all this knowledge you have must be shared to the masses. My apologies if I do talk too fast. You're probably right there. I've actually noticed that when I've watched them back. So I've tried to slow it down a bit this week. Now, I don't know whether I've been successful, but I was tripping myself up on words and all sorts because I was trying to do it that fast. So yeah, I get your point, and I have noticed that I am trying to slow down slightly. I think what it is, I'm just trying to fit so much in. Because obviously it's reading. If something interests you, then you can go back to it and you can pick it up that way. All your info is absolutely mind-blowing, has to be totally exposed. Is it possible to slow it down a tweet? Yeah. These global sleep families are pure bloody evil. These empires clearly never went away. No, did they? It just moves. Reach Youth, Orthone, good to lower blood pressure and bad cholesterol. It lowered mine. Good. Orthone tincture. Okay, that sounds like good. No, well, I do have something actually as well, just a bit on the liver. I did put it on the face ache. It's only short, so I'll just briefly get that up and just because it certainly it gives you a bit of an idea of what you're looking for as to it's important you know what organs are failing. We are having to go to a doctor's to be lied to. It says that the liver is continuously cleansing your body. If you don't cleanse your liver, it stops cleansing your efficiency. Signs that you need to detox. It says abdominal bloating, pain in the liver area. Now this isn't going to be the only cause, but these, if any you've got any of these, you might want to consider giving your liver a bit of a natural attention. So abdominal bloating, pain in the liver area, excessive belly fat, issues digesting fats. The best way to work out if your body's not digesting fats properly is when you poo, when you're flushed, if it's under the water staining, your pancreas is not dealing, or your liver, with the fats in your body. You need to change your diet. And you need to change your diet and keep changing it until you can go to the toilet and you no longer have that. Yeah? So every now and again, I might try something new and boom, it's on. And it's easier when you've got to the point where you're not like that, because then if you add something to your diet, you can stop it if it does that. But it's really important. Your stools and your wee will tell you if you've got problems. And then just by analysing that and having a look for reference, you'll work out what you have to hit. Gallbladder, if you've had your gallbladder removed. Acid reflux, heartburn, dark spots on skin spots, overheating, excessive sweating, acne, itchy or blotchy skin, and weight gainers in general. And the natural solutions are beets, milk thistle, dandelion, turmeric, garlic, and globe artichoke. Because, I push liver all the time because your liver is cleansing your blood. Your kidneys are cleansing you. You need to keep these on track, especially if you're eating a shed load of processed foods and takeaways. But more importantly, if you're taking medication. Because the main consequence of taking medication is that it stuffs up your liver. Your bowel glands are not, but they're not opening. Your liver isn't naturally cleansing itself. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining on what was the Beltane for 2022. I hope you got some worth taking on board the tincture. Okay, let me just have a look there. It was ale hoof or ground ivy, it's called. It's also called cat's foot, Jill Creek by ground, ton hoof, haymaids, and ale hoof. But it goes by the name ale hoof or ground ivy. So that's the thing. Now again, I've got that report on my website, remember. So what I'll do after tomorrow probably is I'll put these two herbal things that we've discussed again on that as I have, so they're accessible for you. So that's what I'm doing on the site page. I'm putting all this stuff up as I've translated it. We've talked it on here, and then it goes on the website, so you can get it in written form. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say Till the next time.